Back again with another video. To my subscriber that made a comment, I forget the name escapes me, that said, do you have like a Tim Hortons delivery guy? You always seem to have a fresh cup. Yes, my friend. Not only am I well located to Timmy's in both locations that I frequent, all three actually, in fact, they're everywhere. So, this is just an intro to some new shit that I'm going to cover. I don't know what new shit I'm going to cover yet, but this is the intro to it. Check out the effects. I'm liking this blackface thing, you know? The man with no face. The channel with the black face.
The world. And you could go back to Aristotle, but I won't go that far back. He was the first one of these materialists who broke away from Plato and the spiritualist school and really just founded the peripatetic materialist school, where everything is described, you know, in material terms, and they deny the spiritual causes. Whereas Plato was a spiritualist, a transcendentalist, and this is why Justinian closed down the Neoplatonic schools in the 6th century, along with other crimes that he did toward humanity.
Sorry, what's a Neoplatonic school?
All right, so welcome to another expose of some very good content that's out there. I'm a big follower of Santos Bonacci. He opened up my eyes to all kinds of stuff, especially the idea of geocentrism, that the Earth is a stationary plane. It's not an argument, it's not a debate. What shape it is, well, it is in fact an unknowable thing. But if you study the works of researchers such as Santos Bonacci, whom Vinny Eastwood is interviewing in this episode, the big 5 false teachings exposed, you know, research it and watch the entirety of it. It's almost 2 hours long. You'll get some very good information that will once again have you reshaping your own understanding of this place we call Earth. Okay, so we'll watch a little bit and then I'll chop it off, and no interruptions. So it's my pleasure to present to you, if you haven't already been introduced to either of these gentlemen. Yes, I know, NC, keeping it 100 as always. Here we go.
The Neoplatonists were the new Platonic people who flourished in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th century of this common era, 900 years after the great Pythagoras and Plato and Socrates. That line, that trilogy there. And yeah, what they did was they basically taught the secret teachings of Plato, which are unwritten. Plato, basically, what we have of his writings are all of his philosophical writings and theological. But when he went transcendental, Aristotle couldn't follow him and broke away and continued with a materialist paradigm. And the transcendental went underground, virtually. 400 years after Plato, there was Plutarch and Philo, and supposedly Jesus, the historical, lived around that time. And they were also intermediary Neoplatonists. But the Neoplatonists flourished in Alexandria, Athens, and Rome, those 3 cities. And Ammonius Saccas was the founder. Then there was Plotinus, probably the greatest of all of them, and Proclus, Iamblichus, Sallustius, Porphyry, my favourite of the Neoplatonists. These were the greats. These seven or eight luminaries of the Neoplatonic short-lived school, and they taught this transcendental science. And so they also were of the geocentric disk Earth paradigm. Of course they were, because it is pinned to antiquity. So let's call it flat Earth. I don't like that expression because it's not flat. There's mountains and valleys.
That is a point that I wanted to raise as well, because any reasonable person...
Yes, and this term does come up often enough that people automatically just want to shut down any possibility of even talking about it. But listen to Santos. He'll set the record straight.
And even though you say flat Earth understands mountains and valleys or anything, but it's on a plane, right? An overall one. But so that's just a distraction BS argument to begin with against it, as opposed to, you know, real scientific evidence, etc. But I've been thinking about this term flat earther, what's a flat earther, etc. And it seems a derogatory term to me. It seems like Holocaust denier to me. Mm-hmm. It seems like a persecutory label to me. And I wonder, what can you call a flat earther if a flat earther is a derogatory title? You know, is there a PC version of this to go around? Is there a geocentrist?
Yeah, I would say geocentrist, and then you could call, I would like for them to be called stationary disk earthers. The Earth is stationary, there's no doubt about it. It's been proven scientifically in the 1800s. George Airy, with the Airy's failure experiment, proved it conclusively. Michelson-Morley, Michelson-Gale, Sagnac, these great scientists.
I can also prove that the Earth is stationary because all my paper and pencils came from it.
Yes, it is. It's stationary.
If that doesn't make you smile, you really have no sense of humor. Good one, Vinny. Good one.
Oh, that's lovely. Mm. Yeah, but look, one example, Vinny, is let's take the heliocentric model of the flying Earth, spinning Earth model. There are 4 movements that we have to take into account. Not only the rotation on its axis, but the orbit around the Sun, number 2. Number 3 is we are flinging around the centre of the Milky Way galaxy at 550,000 miles an hour, or let's call it 500,000 miles an hour, 500,000, okay? And then the galaxy itself is hurtling through space, who knows which way, which direction, at an astronomical 670 million miles an hour. So let's not worry about the 1,000-mile-an-hour rotation around its axis and the 67,000 mile an hour orbit around the Sun. Let's just have a look at these bigger ones, shall we? The biggest one being, I'll have to grab this phone and just disconnect it. There you go. That fixes that, doesn't it?
It's live radio, folks. You know, we ain't faking it.
So, if we are in fact travelling at... See, this is what we have to accept if we are globalists now, okay? And look at the word globalist, globalism, and you'll see who's behind the globe since Copernicus, since the Jesuits were founded.
I wanted to note that also calling people who are like round earthers globalists also seems to be a persecutory term, wouldn't you think so? Because the truth movement's got this entire consciousness about globalism, you know, the New World Order, the scumbaggery all of a sudden, but now to think that being labelled a globalist, I don't think it's a fair label. What would be the PC version of that?
Gee, I don't know, man. What
was it? The heliocentrists.
Heliocentrists, I suppose. Yeah, that'd be probably the best way to keep it clean. You know?
So it's
Helios being the sun, so that the sun is at the center, and that everything revolves around it.
Centrist versus heliocentrist, okay? Versus flat Earth versus round Earth, which don't really seem apt. You know, if it's going to be a scientific debate, let's use the proper terminology. Is what I was, you know, kind of trying to get out of this thing. Because,
let's do that.
Yeah, because have you noticed it all descends into this name-calling and hurt feelings, but let's just talk about the stuff that's actually what we actually think and listen to each other.
Yeah, for sure. Keep it clean. Although bear in mind that not all geocentrists teach the disk plane Earth. Some of them are geocentrists with a globe ball Earth. So basically what we are finding now through evidence and proof and research is that all of these orbs, so-called, moon, sun, they're all disks. That they appear, it's an optical illusion that they appear to be spheroids, but they are not. They are disks. And I'll explain why they are disks after we give one example to show that we are not moving, stationary and immovable and firm. As all the scriptures say, the earth was built to be firm. So if we look at that speed of 670 million miles in 1 hour. So in 1 hour, we've actually hurtled through space 670 million miles. 670 million miles every hour. So let's take 10 years of our life, right? Let's factor that figure into 10 years. So you've got to add a couple of zeros to that, and you'll get the figure for how far we've moved in a decade. And when you look up at the stars, you keep seeing the same shapes of Orion, Scorpio, Taurus, Aries, Gemini. There's no parallax in the stars. Now, supposedly all those stars are at different distances.
Sorry.
So,
What's a parallax? Because most people will think that that's a Green Lantern villain.
yeah. Well, it's the angle that a closer object moves away from a more further object as you move. So you're in a train. The trees that are 100 meters away from you move quicker than the trees that you can see 10 miles in the distance in the hills. So that's the angle of parallax. And so you'll see these trees closer to you, they will shoot past at the same speed.
Kind of like if a jet plane like rushes right in front of you, it appears really fast, but if it's flying miles away from you, it appears to go very slow.
Exactly. And so if you look at Orion, you can find depictions of Orion in Egypt, in some of those caves in south of France. I forget the name of that town. I think it's the Lazac caves or something like that. Lazac, I forget right now. But they've got pictures of Taurus and the Hyades, which is the head of Taurus, and the Pleiades, which is on the shoulder of Taurus. And they are at the same degree, the same angle, and supposedly these are 40,000-year-old pictures of Taurus. Now, those stars in Taurus, none of them are supposedly at the same distance. So 40,000 years ago, Taurus looks the same as it does now. So yeah. Just from this, very fact that we move 670 million miles every hour, just from that motion alone of our motion, we should see a change of parallax in some of those stars, some distortion. There's no distortion, there's no movement, there's no shift in space between the constellations. They're always the same on the ecliptic. They're always there, all the stars, they're always in the same position. Now, here's another thing to factor into it. Not only those four motions that I described and have explained already, but the fact that all of those stars have their own proper motion. One's shooting off that away, another one's going off the other direction. They've all got their own proper motion. And so this alone proves that those stars are much, much closer than what they're telling us, and the distance between them is not that great. And so what we're discovering is, as the scriptures say, and the Bible teaches, that the Lord, the Creator, placed the stars in the firmament. We're looking up at a firmament. We don't know exactly what it is, but it's made of crystalline substance. It's probably cobalt, sapphire, lapis lazuli, carbon, some kind of bluish kind of a carbon structure that is a dome-like vault above our heads, and which contains the electrical sonoluminescent starry bodies in it. And so the fact that there is no parallax in the stars ever, ever, ever proves this. It proves that the stars are much closer to us, and that whatever is moving is above us and not we. We are not moving. And so
yeah, so I'll end it there. I like doing these. These are a lot of fun. Thank you, Vinny Eastwood. You got a big fan right here, supporter. I will be sharing more of your content and your page, your channel itself. Special shout out to Santos Bonacci. You are paramount in mankind's fight for survival. And the only way we can fight for survival is by knowing what is actually going on. So, thank you very much. Till next time, my friends, mes amis, lots of videos recently uploaded. Check them out. Lots of good stuff. And yeah, see you next time.